Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Sunday, March 23rd, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. The weather in Riverside today will be warm with a high of 81.2 degrees and a low of 55.7. Coming up on today's episode, we'll examine what a recent Beijing visit by one of Trump's allies might mean for the future of U.S.-China relations. Could this signal a potential thaw or new direction in the complicated relationship between these global powers? We'll also explore the critical importance of the Internet Archive in our current digital landscape. As concerns about information preservation and access grow, we'll look at why this digital library has become an essential resource for researchers, educators, and the general public. Stay with us for these stories and more on Alex's News. In our top story this morning, a significant diplomatic meeting has taken place between Chinese leadership and a key U.S. senator with close ties to President Trump. We're joined by our international affairs correspondent Ethan with the details. Ethan, tell us about this high-level exchange.
Thanks, Grace. Chinese Premier Li Qiang recently met with Republican Senator Steve Daines of Montana, who's known to be a strong Trump supporter, in what appears to be a diplomatic effort to ease tensions between the world's two largest economies. According to reporting from KULR8 and MSN, the meeting took place in Beijing earlier this month, with Premier Li emphasizing that both countries would benefit from cooperation and lose from confrontation.
This comes at a particularly tense time in U.S.-China relations, doesn't it? What's the significance of Senator Daines being the one to make this trip?
Absolutely right, Grace. Senator Daines wasn't chosen by chance. He has a unique background, having worked in China previously and served as a trade liaison. According to MSN, he brought along some serious American business firepower as executives from corporate giants like FedEx, Boeing, Qualcomm, and Pfizer joined him in Beijing, signaling that economic ties remain a priority despite the political friction.
I understand the fentanyl crisis was a major talking point. How did that feature in these discussions?
That's right, Grace. The fentanyl issue was front and center. KULR8 reports that Senator Daines directly conveyed President Trump's demand that China stop the flow of fentanyl precursors. Those are the chemical ingredients used to manufacture the drug A into the United States. For viewers who might not be familiar, fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that's approximately 50 times more potent than heroin and has been driving America's devastating opioid crisis.
Has China taken any steps to address these concerns previously?
They have made some moves, Grace. According to information from Perplexity API, since a 2019 agreement between the two countries, China has placed the entire class of fentanyl-type drugs under regulatory control and added at least 6 more precursors to their controlled substances list. They've also resumed bilateral cooperation with the U.S. on counter-narcotics. But it's a bit of a chemical whack-a-mole situation, as when they control one substance, manufacturers often switch to alternative precursors.
So it sounds like a complex challenge. What about the trade tensions that have been brewing? Did those come up as well?
They certainly did. Before meeting Premier Li, Daines met with Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng, who, according to KULR8, criticized U.S. economic policies while simultaneously expressing interest in dialogue. The timing is particularly noteworthy, since President Trump has recently slapped new tariffs on Chinese goods, which prompted Beijing to retaliate with their own trade restrictions. It's a real economic tug-of-war.
Did anything concrete come out of these high-level talks? Any agreements we should know about?
That's the million-dollar question, Grace, but the answer appears to be, not yet. Despite the diplomatic choreography, Perplexity API indicates no specific agreements were announced on either fentanyl controls or trade relations. It seems this meeting was more about keeping communication channels open during a particularly frosty period in U.S.-China relations. You might say they're trying to precursor better relations before things get any worse, as if you'll pardon the chemistry pun.
I see what you did there, Ethan. And is there any talk of future meetings between Chinese and American leadership?
There might be something brewing at the highest level. KULR8 reports that President Trump has indicated Chinese President Xi Jinping may visit the United States soon, though China hasn't confirmed this yet. If that happens, it would mark a significant diplomatic milestone in what has been a rather rocky relationship in recent years.
Thanks for that comprehensive report, Ethan. We'll be keeping a close eye on how these diplomatic efforts develop in the coming weeks. Our next story takes us to San Francisco, where an unusual sanctuary is preserving our digital history. The Internet Archive, housed in a former Christian Science church, has become increasingly vital in today's political landscape. Joining us with more on this digital library is our tech correspondent, Chloe. Good morning!
Good morning, Grace. The Internet Archive might be operating from a place of worship, but what they're saving isn't Soul Salsa, it's websites. According to WFSU News, this nonprofit digital library, founded by Brewster Colley in 1996, has evolved into a crucial institution that's webbing against digital erasure.
I see what you did there. Can you tell us more about what exactly they're preserving?
Absolutely. The archive captures approximately 100 terabytes of data daily using automated crawler SCI. That's the equivalent of about 50,000 hours of HD video every single day. Their most famous tool is the Wayback Machine, which allows users to view archived versions of websites dating back to the mid-1990s, essentially creating a historical sightline of the Internet's evolution.
And I understand their work has taken on new significance in recent years?
That's right. According to WFSU's reporting, the archive's importance grew substantially during the first Trump administration from 2017 to 2021. During that period, they cataloged 73,000 web pages that were removed from U.S. government websites after his inauguration, primarily content related to climate change, reproductive health, and gender identity.
That's a staggering number. Was this typical of presidential transitions?
Not according to specialists at the archive. WFSU reports that digital preservation experts noted this wasn't just normal website turnover, to scale, and nature of the deletions, particularly on politically sensitive topics, were remarkable compared to previous administrations. For example, the EPA's climate change web pages were significantly altered or removed, and certain Treasury Department reports that contradicted then-Secretary Mnuchin's policies disappeared.
And with President Trump back in office since January, how has this affected the archive's work?
They've seen what you might call a memory surge. Visitor numbers have increased dramatically, particularly among journalists and researchers concerned about potential information loss. The archive has intensified its preservation efforts, with special focus on identifying and capturing material at risk of removal from government sites.
Are they working alone in this digital preservation effort?
Not at all. WFSU reports that collaborative projects like the End-of-Term Web Archivea, a partnership between the Internet Archive and other institutions, have been capturing U.S. government websites at the end of presidential administrations. Other specialized groups like the Open Environmental Data Project focus specifically on preserving climate and energy-related data.
Despite this important work, I understand they face significant challenges?
Yes, they're facing some serious bite problems, if you will. Copyright lawsuits over digitized books and music threaten parts of their collection. They've also been targeted by cyber attacks, and they're in a constant battle against link rot, where web links become inaccessible over time. Colley himself admits they're vulnerable as a nonprofit dependent on donations and grants.
This comes at a critical time, when preserving public records seems more important than ever.
Exactly. Their role in maintaining records like the interactive timeline detailing the January 6, 2021 events has never been more crucial. As WFSU puts it, humming along in its repurposed church building, this digital library stands as a testament to the importance of preserving our collective digital memory, regardless of which way the political winds blow.
A digital ark for our information age. Thank you, Chloe, for that fascinating report on the Internet Archive's vital work. Here are some other headlines. Venezuela has agreed to resume repatriation flights for migrants following a deal with the United States. The program, which was temporarily suspended by President Nicolás Maduro earlier this month after the U.S. Treasury revoked Chevron's license to export Venezuelan oil, will restart on Sunday. Jorge Rodríguez, Venezuela's chief negotiator with the U.S., emphasized that the agreement aims to ensure the safe return of Venezuelan migrants while protecting their human rights. Denmark's foreign ministry has issued a travel advisory recommending that transgender and non-binary individuals contact the U.S. Embassy before traveling to the United States. The advisory specifically targets those with an X gender designation on their passports or who have undergone gender changes. This guidance follows similar updates from other European countries, including Finland, reflecting growing concerns about varying laws and public attitudes toward transgender people across different U.S. states. Legal experts are raising concerns after Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick appeared on Fox News, encouraging viewers to buy Tesla stock despite its recent decline. While such statements potentially violate laws related to influencing stock prices, experts don't anticipate any significant legal repercussions. The incident has drawn comparisons to previous controversies involving government officials making similar endorsements. In West Virginia's coal country, new Social Security verification requirements are creating significant challenges for vulnerable seniors. Starting March 31st, recipients must verify their identities online or in person rather than by phone. In areas like McDowell County, where approximately 20% of residents lack broadband access and 1 in 3 live in poverty, these changes present substantial barriers. Local organizations, like the Commission on Aging, are struggling to provide adequate transportation to distant Social Security offices for the 30% of residents who rely on these benefits. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is charting a confrontational path for Democrats to counter President Trump's policies. During a recent 3-day tour across Illinois, Pritzker highlighted the effects of Trump-era funding cuts, including the impending closure of the University of Illinois' Soybean Innovation Lab. His approach contrasts with other Democratic governors who favor bipartisan efforts. Pritzker's February speech comparing Trump's rhetoric to Nazi Germany drew national attention, positioning him as a potential contender for the 2028 presidential election. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King, with Claude Sonnet 3.7, Gemini Flash 2.0, the Perplexity API, and the Google Cloud Text-to-Speech API. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.